Hey, if you're looking for the best way to increase conversions, sell more, premium prices with better clients, I'm not going to tell you it's AI. I'm not going to tell you it's a new webinar funnel, even though I love AI and I absolutely love webinar funnels. And I love all the funnels, to be honest with you. But right now we are in probably the most trust deficient economy that we've ever been in. And today I had two clients that I work with very closely share with me one that right now in 2025, coming out of July, they just had the highest collections rate, and that's a dental implant office. Okay, so they sell really expensive stuff to really skeptical people. That's a very hyper competitive market. And then we have a regenerative medicine client that just had a $30,000 day. It's their best day ever. And, if you multiply that across 30 days, which is, they don't work 30 days a week, that's a $10 million a year business, right? And the commonality when I came into both those businesses is the first thing I do is I interview them. Like I turn my sales brain, my 25 years of copywriting, and then we have a 3-camera interview, and it immediately turns them into the expert that is on stage, who's being edified by a third-party authority, which is me. Because I like to wear my nice little suit. I'm not dressed like this, and I'm not doing it on an iPhone, which, by the way, is better than nothing, right? And so that's one of the first things we do. And then what we do is we cut up their interview into a bunch of pieces. So like, let's say it's 12, 15, 1-minute clips. 1-minute clips or less, because we use them as little micro video ads and reels. So it builds immediate social authority. They're very inexpensive ads. You could start at low budgets, you could start at big budgets, whatever you want to do on that. And we drive them to simple lead forms or a page with a simple form on it. And the questions are really simple. They're just pre-qualifications, like which condition best describes you? Are you aware this is the money? By the way, in one of our dental implant clients' business, our best performing ad is bringing up the price in the ad. Now, nothing builds trust better than bringing up the thing they're most worried about. And that, for people looking at dental implants, it's always price. There's like, what's the cost? What's the investment? So, utilizing this interview, and I'll go through the structure here in a minute and how you could replicate it on your own, or if you ever want to work with us, I'll tell you how to do that in a second. In fact, if you want to, I'm sure I have a link in the description. We have a new group called Profit with Ed. That's one option where you could be a part of our community, or you could find out ways to work with me one-on-one. And so it'll be in the description. So now that that's out of the way, let me go a little more in depth. So the backstory of the interview method, okay? I had a client come to my house, paid me $25K for a day of consulting. Now, he was a very, very, very well-known, respected consultant, but he was having a hard time converting on paid ads. So he would charge $65,000 for his coaching club for dentists, and everybody knows who he is. He's very well known, but he was having a hard time converting. So think about that. So he's known as a credible expert. You would think like it'd be easy for them to sell, and he was having a hard time with it. And he wanted to increase their prices and do more for his clients. And so after our day, we mapped out his whole program. We layered a couple fast action bonuses, things that would remove objections from your prospect, which is something I'll talk about in a minute. And he hired me to talk to his marketing team. And I said, sure. So on my first meeting with his marketing team, I realized that the biggest problem with all his marketing is they can't capture his voice. He had a distinct voice. He was unique. He was very passionate. He was a little bit older than, actually a lot older than his entire marketing team. So his verbs and everything he'd do was different. And I was like, hey, Bill, by the time I train your staff, and by the time they figure this out, we might be 3 to 6 months down the road. And you're not going to be any further ahead because I don't really believe they're going to ever capture your voice. I think your voice is unique. And actually, I think that's about everybody. Like there's no one that's going to communicate like you if you're like the expert better than you about how you can solve problems, because you can always get better at that, right? And so I said, why don't I just interview you? Now, at this point, I have been running seminars, working with experts for 20-something years. So I've studied copywriting for my whole life, my adult life, direct response advertising. But I also learned a lot about commanding presence on stage. And those are all skills. I'm not sharing that to brag at all. What I'm sharing is that that's a different skill set than just going on a podcast. Okay. And so when I brought Bill on, I already knew, because I did the research, but I already knew all the objections that he was facing with his sales team. And so the magic of this is that the interview is designed for the expert, that'd be you, to tell your hero's journey, to identify very, very specific and painful problems that your best buyers, okay, that's the important thing, your best buyers, you craft the interview to get your best buyers, because your other buyers will want to come in because they want to do what the best buyers are doing. Does that make sense? A lot of people get that wrong. They flip it. Oh, this is who they talk about, like their worst buyers, and they move on their way up to the best. No, the whole interview is about your best buyer. If you work with people, like I have one client that he only wants land investors and real estate investors that do over that have over $1 million net worth and have done over multiple millions in real estate transactions. Why? So we only talk about helping those people. We don't talk about Mrs. Jones and Mr. Jones that just want to get into land investing. It's a waste of time to talk about them. They're just going to clutter up your lead funnel. And then if you have salespeople, they're going to complain about low quality prospects. Well, it's your fault because your messaging attracted them. Anyhow, I don't want to go off that tangent on this training today. But so what we did next was I interviewed them. And what we did was, hey, tell us your origin story. Tell us your hero's journey. How did we get here? Now, the coolest thing, one thing that always comes out of that first part is that I always identify 2 or 3 things that should be the front end marketing for the marketing team. In this case, Bill said to me when I was asking him about how he got into this and how did he get into, tell me your story. And he said, his practice was doing $2.5 million a year. At that time, that was it would be like $5 million a year this year. He goes, but we were barely we barely had scraps on the table. We were, listen to this, we were trapped in the high revenue, low income profit trap, the low income profit trap. That's what he said. And I said, holy crap. And so that became our lead ad, by the way. It became our lead ad, and I'll tell you about that when we talk about ads on a different video, possibly. But after you tell the origin story, the hero's journey, how you discovered the solution to the problems that your best buyers are facing. At that point, we bring up, so then I bring up like price, money. I'm like, okay, well then why would someone not go down the path that you're prescribing? So I bring up the leading question, why would they not do this? This sounds like such a no-brainer to me. And then we bring up the biggest objections. Now, there's like 10 of them. Money, time. Will it work? So proof, believability. Will it work? Will it work for me? And that's an internal confidence issue, not necessarily an issue about you. So you have to address that. Like a lot of people think, okay, well, hey, I understand why it's going to work for them, but I don't understand why it's going to work. I'm not sure if I'm able to do that. And then the expert goes, well, we get that question all the time. So let me tell you about this person and that person and this person. And just like live events, when you give your testimonials, they should, let's say we're only doing 3 testimonials, they should cover the range of the ideal buyer demographics, geographics that you cover. Like, so for example, if I work with chiropractors, I'm just making this up, and I specialize in working with chiropractors to help them net $1 million a year. Now, somebody in a really small town is going to say like, well, that's great. That probably works in the big cities, but it's not going to work here. That's a great objection, right? So let me tell you about Bob. Now, Bob lives in a farm community where you would never believe this would work in that kind of community. And in fact, the greatest thing is that actually gives Bob the biggest advantage, because there's barely any cost for advertising. Farmers and other people are willing to drive 25, 30 minutes on a country road or a highway with no traffic to find Bob. Where in the city, there's 30 chiros there. They're all spending money. This is true in every single profession, by the way. You know, and so you could always use whatever you think is the biggest disadvantage as your biggest advantage. That's going to win me over right there. And then you say, okay, cool. So that's the small town, farm town, right? And then you go, okay, well, isn't it too crowded in big cities for people to use your system? And then you say, well, yeah, it's funny you say that, because we love crowded places, because if there's more crowds, that means more people are advertising. That means the buyers are better because they have higher IQs. We just need to know how to stand out differently. And so when you use my method, you stand out differently because of X, Y, and Z. So do you see how I just took two polar opposite objections, and then we turned them into, by using examples in a very conversational way, to actually sell our point, right? And so that is also super powerful. Now, what else is really cool at? So by us bringing up the objections, we disarm them out of the gate. Then we bring up price. And then the reason why I like bringing up price on these interviews, even if it's just price ranges, is because you or me, like if I'm the interviewer, I always help my guests with this because I'm probably better at smashing price than most people, is, well, I'll give you an example, right? Is I like getting out of the way, because why would I trust my staff or a salesperson to be on their A game, where if I could put this in a can and clone it and have it be a retargeting ad or a video thing, I know the languaging is being done properly. And I'll give you a quick example and I'll wrap up this video. And then if you want to do more work with us, you could check out the links below with Profit With That, our community, easily affordable. I did that so I could help more people. And then if you want to work one-on-one, it's definitely a lot more expensive, but that information will be below as well. The reason I like bringing up money in my interviews is because it's a controlled environment. If I screw it up, I can edit it or redo it. I could do it 10 times, okay? And it's my words, and I could actually prep for this. So Dr. Bill had a $65,000 package. So the first thing I ask when I'm doing that is I'm like, hey, is there financing, Bill? Is there installments? Is there anything? And he had those things, right? And so I said, okay, so what is the dollar amount per month that this is us talking off camera, that your client would have to be able to afford? Okay, $2,500 a month. Okay, cool, not a problem. So in dentistry, for example, one implant, two implants, like 2 crowns, if it's, and then one other thing is, they generate $2,500. And so I said, why don't we take your 5 questions that help increase conversion rate by 2 to 3 times, and we give it to them immediately, and that they get put in like a fast track to have access to the conversion coach that's going to train the team. Because when the team gets trained, that takes pressure off the doctor, it takes pressure off the business owner. Like if you say, hey, we're gonna give you all this information and train your team, that's no longer a benefit because it puts more work on the business owner. Do you see the distinction in that? And so what I did was I said, okay, so what's the investment in your program? And he was very good at explaining it, right? So he said, blah, 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 blah. So I'm not gonna go into that because I wanted to share this point. And so then I was able to go as an interviewer, not as a salesperson, and say, oh, Well, that's just crazy. It's really free, isn't it? They just got to go first with their first investment. And so like, for example, Dr. Bill, if they implemented your, like your 5 questions, like in the first week, and their team started doing it, and Susie was helping them doing it, so they don't even have to do it, are they able to get 2 extra crowns in the first 30 days? But now they have a system the rest of their life? And he chuckles, yes, of course they can. I'm like, well, then that means it's actually a free coaching club and mentoring program that actually increases their practice value, makes them better, they get their money back right away, now they're in a whole network, and then I go into the sales pitch, and I say that, not the expert. And so at this point, think about that, guys. Think about that. Nobody there is has their defense mechanisms up because they're not being sold anything. They're just watching a video podcast. So if you have a successful funnel, if you have things already working, add the interview method. If you don't, add the interview method. If you need to do it on your own, do it on your own. Get a camera like the one I have right here, pretend like someone's interviewing you, and ask all the questions that your salespeople or that you face, and then post it on your socials. But really, more importantly, utilize it as a lead. Once leads come in, they see these interviews, or they get these questions. I mean, we just had somebody spend $20,000 today. She became a lead just a couple days ago, and I'm able to see from our tracking what she responded to. She watched a 1-minute clip of the interview, then she went to a landing page that had more content that answered questions. She went through the survey, booked a call with one of our team members, and made the full decision. But I promise you, if we didn't have those extra trust building layers to it, she would never do that. There's no way. And it would force our salespeople to just have to sell super, super hard. You don't want to do that because it's too hard of a push environment. So if you like what I'm talking about, check it out. Otherwise, make sure you check out any of our videos where we talk about our webinars, we talk about paid ads, we talked about being the #1 credible expert right now in 2025. And I mean, think about this. If you're still watching this, I pull this and do this on my phone. Nothing crazy, nothing super high tech. People don't care for that anymore. Like it's good, it's awesome, but they're looking for people that can share distinctions that gives them breakthroughs. And if you could do that for people, create some content, get interviewed, and get live. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.